and welcome back to Morning Bible. Today, we will be reading through Matthew chapter 27, so let's dive on in. Matthew chapter 27. When it was early in the morning, all the chief priests and the elders of the people plotted against Jesus to execute him. They tied him up, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate the governor. Now when Judas, who had betrayed him, saw that Jesus had been condemned, he regretted what he had done and returned the 30 silver coins to the chief priests and the elders, saying, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. But they said, What is that to us? You take care of it yourself. So Judas threw the silver coins into the temple and left. Then he went out and hanged himself. The chief priests took the silver and said, It is not lawful to put this into the temple treasury, since it is blood money. After consulting together, they bought the potter's field with it as a burial place for foreigners. For this reason, that field has been called the field of blood to this day. Then what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet was fulfilled. They took the 30 silver coins, the price of the one whose price had been set by the people of Israel, and they gave them for the potter's field, as the Lord commanded me. Then Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, Are you the king of the Jews? Jesus said, You say so. But when he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he did not respond. Then Pilate said to him, Don't you hear how many charges they are bringing against you? But he did not answer even one accusation, so that the governor was quite amazed. During the feast, the governor was accustomed to release one prisoner to the crowd, whomever they wanted. At that time, they had in custody a notorious prisoner named Jesus Barabbas. So after they had assembled, Pilate said to them, Whom do you want me to release for you, Jesus Barabbas or Jesus who is called the Christ? For he knew that they had handed him over because of envy. As he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent a message to him, Have nothing to do with that innocent man. I have suffered greatly as a result of a dream about him today. But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowds to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus killed. The governor asked them, Which of the two do you want me to release for you? And they said, Barabbas! Pilate said to them, Then what should I do with Jesus who is called the Christ? They all said, Crucify him! He asked, Why? What wrong has he done? But they shouted more insistently, Crucify him! When Pilate saw that he could do nothing, but that instead a riot was starting, he took some water, washed his hands before the crowd, and said, I am innocent of this man's blood. You take care of it yourselves. In reply, all the people said, Let his blood be on us and on our children. Then he released Barabbas for them. But after he had Jesus flogged, he handed him over to be crucified. Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the governor's residence and gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe around him, and after braiding a crown of thorns, they put it on his head. They put a staff in his right hand, and kneeling down before him, they mocked him. Hail, King of the Jews! They spat on him and took the staff and struck him repeatedly on the head. When they had mocked him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes back on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. As they were going out, they found a man from Cyrene named Simon, whom they forced to carry his cross. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of the skull, and offered Jesus wine mixed with gall to drink. But after tasting it, he would not drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided his clothes by throwing dice. Then they sat down and kept guard over him there. Above his head they put the charge against him, which read, This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. Then 2 outlaws were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by defamed him, shaking their heads and saying, You who can destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are God's son, come down from that cross. In the same way, even the chief priests, together with the experts in the law and elders, were mocking him. He saved others, but he cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. If he comes down now from the cross, we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God, if he wants to, deliver him now, because he said, I am God's son. The robbers who were crucified with him also spoke abusively to him. Now from noon until 3, darkness came over all the land. At about 3 o'clock, Jesus shouted with a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani. That is, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, This man is calling for Elijah. Immediately one of them ran and got a sponge, filled it with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink. But the rest said, Leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah will come to save him. Then Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and gave up his spirit. Just then, the temple curtain was torn in two, from top to bottom. The earth shook and the rocks were split apart, and tombs were opened, and the bodies of many saints who had died were raised. They came out of the tombs after his resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared to many people. Now when the centurion and those with him, who were also guarding Jesus, saw the earthquake and what took place, they were extremely terrified and said, Truly this one was God's son. Many women who had followed Jesus from Galilee and given him support were also there, watching from a distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. Now when it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea, named Joseph, who was also a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered that it be given to him. Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and placed it in his own tomb that he had cut in the rock. Then he rolled a great stone across the entrance of the tomb and went away. Now Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were sitting there, opposite the tomb. The next day, which is after the day of preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees assembled before Pilate and said, Sir, we remember that while that deceiver was still alive, he said, After 3 days I will rise again. So give orders to secure the tomb until the third day. Otherwise, his disciples may come and steal his body and say to the people, He has been raised from the dead, and the last deception will be worse than the first. Pilate said to them, Take a guard of soldiers, and go and make it as secure as you can. So they went with the soldiers of the guard and made the tomb secure by sealing the stone. And that is Matthew 27. There were a few things that I highlighted in the first half of this, roughly first half. I'm going to leave the death and burial stuff alone. I think there's probably people much better than myself who can talk about that more and give more insight into that than I ever can, at least right now, with my biblical knowledge. Verse 9. Then what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet was fulfilled. They took the 30 silver coins, the price of the one whose price had been set by the people of Israel, and they gave them for the potter's field as the Lord commanded me. This verse, well, this section really is really interesting because shouldn't the chief priests know the prophecies? They know the Messiah hadn't come yet, so they know that the prophecies had not been fulfilled. And it didn't strike any of them as odd that they gave 30 silver coins to Judas for betraying Jesus. And when they were going to the field to buy it, it didn't strike any of them as weird that it was 30 silver coins, the exact same amount that was talked about in the prophecy. I'm not going to pretend that I have an answer for that. I have a speculation, and the speculation is that they just didn't care. Whether that's true or not, I cannot say, but it seems like something that they would know. And they either just did not read the law or the prophets, which I guess is slightly plausible, but not really. Or, which I personally think is more likely, they just did not care because Jesus was threatening their authority. And so they had to get rid of him. Moving on to the second thing I want to talk about, verse 19. As he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent a message to him, Have nothing to do with that innocent man. I have suffered greatly as a result of a dream about him today. I am beyond curious to know more about this dream, and I really doubt that we have anything else about this, at least reliably, I should say. Because why is Pilate's wife getting a dream about Jesus. It's weird, especially since it doesn't turn into anything. You could speculate that because she sent that message, he was going to release Jesus. Because in verse 20 it says, but the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowds. But that's not really conclusive. So it's a speculation that she was able to make him see reason and not go through with crucifying Jesus. But at the end of the day, the crowd won anyway. It's really odd. And I'm sure there's some book somewhere that has gone into this and that talks about this. The only question is the validity of what that book would be pulling from. But if anyone listening has any sort of reliable information on this, I would be fascinated to read whatever book that you have or articles or whatever. Very, very fascinating verse that sort of means nothing besides her having a dream and declaring that he's innocent. It doesn't change anything. But yeah, I really want to know more about this verse because it's sort of awesome and it's shrouded in mystery. Now, on to the third and final thing I want to talk about for this episode. Verse 41. In the same way, even the chief priests, together with the experts in the law and elders, were mocking him. This reminds me of very current events happening right now. With Charlie Kirk being killed, there are a lot of people on the political left who have been mocking and ridiculing people because they are upset that he got killed. There was a student at, I want to say, a university in Texas, I think, doesn't really matter, who was reenacting Charlie getting shot. This evil, evil behavior that it's sad to say is mainstream in today's society. And then you look at 2,000 years ago, and someone who is being crucified was also being mocked. Society actually hasn't changed in 2,000 years. Yeah, I have an iPhone in front of me and an iPad and a laptop and a microphone, whatever else. But the root of society is the exact same, or I should say roots. There's Satan, and then there's God. Satan rejoices when his enemies are hurt or when his enemies are killed. God weeps when things happen to us. God doesn't want to send anyone to hell. God doesn't want anyone to be hurt. God doesn't want anything to happen to anyone that is bad because he is our Father. Before the universe was created, he knew us intimately. And if you are on the political right, I hope that you can't even imagine celebrating when someone on the political left dies. Like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she died. Actually don't even remember how long ago she died. I think it was in Trump's first administration. I don't remember anyone celebrating her death. I think when they asked President Trump about it, he was actually like shocked. And he looked like he was almost upset. And he said something to the effect of, I didn't always agree with her, but she was a great lady, and this isn't news that I want to hear. But then when you look at the aisle, at the political left, they're tearing down and defacing memorials set up for Charlie, which I am not a fan of. I think those memorials and whatever else murals that they're putting up is not healthy. I think it's getting way too close to idolatry, but that's besides the point. When the political left is defacing those and destroying those and people marching through, I think it was New York City, saying that he got what he deserved when Charlie would just go to college campuses. This is mostly what he did and try to get people to look at things differently and try to save people. What do you mean he got what he deserved? What are you talking about? He was a man of peace from everything I can see. And as I said in my Charlie Kirk episode, I wasn't a big, huge fan of his because I thought that he could have been gentler and, this, that, and the other thing. But how can you say that someone deserves to get shot in the neck when they're just talking to people? And then you look 2,000 years ago, and it was happening then. In the same way, even the chief priests, together with the experts in the law and the elders, we're mocking him. He saved others, but he cannot save himself. He is the king of Israel. If he comes down now from the cross, we will believe in him. So whether you take it as good or bad, society hasn't changed in 2,000 years. It's just more in your face now because of these devices that are evil that we have in our pockets or hands 24/7. And we can't help but look at social media. So we think that society is changing. We think that society is getting worse. I know I have. Honestly, until today. And then I'll look at what happened 2,000 years ago. It's the exact same. Celebrating death. Well, in this case, celebrating torture and then death. We need to use this to continue fighting. Society hasn't changed, but we can change the people in society. Or more aptly, we can bring people to the one who can change them. We have to take the Great Commission more to heart. We have to evangelize that much more. Not because of Charlie, which is what I'm seeing everywhere on social media. And even though I didn't know him, I think he would agree with me on this. Do nothing for Charlie. And when I say that, I mean do not do anything in his name. I think Charlie would agree with me on this when I say do it for Jesus. Do it in Jesus' name. Charlie Kirk means nothing. Jesus Christ means everything. And that is the banner that we have to fly above us when we are just doing our normal day life. We have to start being better at evangelizing no matter where we go. And brothers and sisters, that is the greatest thing that we can do to anyone we meet. Letting them know about the Lord and Savior who loves them no matter what. And that is where I will stop for the day. If you want to contact the show, you can email me at morningbiblepod@gmail.com. Tomorrow will be Matthew 28. And then after that, we will be moving to Mark. And I will see you then.